so I would say about 8 to 9 years ago, I went on a missions trip to Peru.
Okay.
And I went with women from my church, and I found it transforming. I love the idea that when I woke up every morning on this trip, it was just to see what God had planned for that day.
How cool.
And to just be responsive to what He put in front of us, and to reach and touch mostly women and children is who we were ministering to in these very poor barrios that we had in Peru, and going into a women's prison in Peru, just doing a lot of things that I wasn't necessarily comfortable with, but God just guided me.
Yeah.
And the other women as well felt that we just followed Him and what He had us do.
You know, one of the beautiful things about foreign mission, and not that everyone's called to it, but I have done some foreign mission in Asia, and one of the things that happened for me, and I think it's the same when we go to a country that has not the same language and you can't read, what I found was there's not as many distractions. When I'm here in the United States, I read signs, not even understanding that I'm reading them subliminally. I'm taking in information. But when you're in a foreign country and you know that you're there for a purpose specific, it does become
It does. And I think, as you said, when those distractions come down, our dependence on Him can go up.
Yes.
And that was really exciting.
That's awesome.
And I came back from that, and unexpectedly, I felt like I went into a little season of discontent for a while, because I think I had felt this on the trip.
Yes.
And then to just drop back into my life, it felt funny. And so I was kind of seeking what God might have next for me. I had a very good career going in the financial services industry, and so I knew, as I felt God was pulling me in a different direction, I knew that would mean a lot of changes for me and for my family. And so it probably took a few years of praying and struggling and putting things before God and not always liking what He said, but considering those. And then I had the opportunity to work with someone who coaches people in mission work. And I was able to work with him for a year to help to decipher how I could take those skills from corporate America and use those in a nonprofit or a missionary field, because I was convinced that I didn't have anything to offer that. And so God provided this opportunity to work and develop those, and realize that He would equip me with whatever I needed to make that change.
That is so cool. You know, Julie, what I really like about, just sharing the transformation in your own life is that it's a testimony that's very common. And I think there's a lot of encouragement, and it's not to pick it apart completely, but to begin with this, that God gripped your heart, and you knew that there was something more. And then spiritually, while you were away, you really got trained with spiritual eyes and spiritual ears. And then coming back in this time of waiting, it isn't God's perfect time, but there was a season of preparation. There was some training, and then there was some tooling, and then there was some equipping. And at the final time, at the appointed time, it was released to you. And I think that's so beautiful, because God, in His infinite wisdom and grace and mercy, He won't just throw us into it, even though maybe you didn't have the perspective and understanding of this time frame, and why do I feel discontent? Wow, it's God working in the middle of that. So you're hearing this. Let that be an encouragement. It's not that God forgot about you. He put that stirring in your heart. He quickened your heart for something. He hasn't forgotten. There's a testing, a season, a proving, a training that's going on, and it's a great time to celebrate. So then you have a new opportunity, a new door that you're prepared for. And how did that feel?
It was great, and I felt, as I walked through that process and began to give more and more of the parts of my life over to God and the things that I was still holding on to, and when I kind of gave that final piece and said, all right, here you go, things began to move very quickly. And so I too would encourage people that when we are struggling and we're feeling discontent, change comes out of that.
Yes.
And God uses that. I know He placed that in my heart, because if He hadn't made me discontent, I probably would still be doing the same thing.
Status quo. Yeah.
So embrace that season that you're in and what God might do with that for you. And so very quickly, I started volunteering at House of Refuge Sunnyslope. And the first night I volunteered, I knew that was the place for me.
What was your first job?
I was mentoring a single mom.
Okay.
And so I came in to spend time with her and come alongside her, which is a program that we still have going on today. I started teaching Bible studies. And then as I did that, I knew this was really what I wanted to do. And at that time, I never imagined that in this ministry I was falling in love with very quickly, that God would have a position for me in that same ministry.
Yeah, that is very interesting. But you know what I like too is how God is a God of efficiency, and He takes our natural gifts and our talents, and He uses them in the ministry. He just laces it together so beautifully, and that He was able to take it, to be the mentoring, to be the nurturer, a spiritual mother, if you will,
yes.
to someone who was really looking. All day long, if someone's really looking, I'll invest in that all day long. No problems, if they truly want change in their life. And here you're placed in that, and here's this open door, and you said, yep, this is for me. Yep. It just confirmed it. Look into those eyes, and I said, yes, Lord. Yeah.
Yes.
Powerful.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So then, as you begin the first job, what was the process then? Because you hold a great position there now, a lot of authority. You are, you're the center focus on that, managing that team, really.
Yeah, when I first came in, so as I was volunteering and realized this is what I wanted to do, I reached out to the ministry and the current executive director and said, my heart is to do this, and
wow.
I would love to do this. And how can you introduce me to other people that do this type of work? Well, at the same time I was doing that and praying about it, the current women's manager who held the position, something was going on in her life, and she was praying about, God, who will you bring to take my place?
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah, it was great. And so the day she said, if I were to leave, would you be interested in my position? I knew that God was at work and it was happening quickly. And so I stepped in as the women's director over our program with single moms with kids, and I did that for about 5 years, and then just a little over a year ago I stepped into the executive director position when our current one retired. He'd done an amazing job with the ministry, and I worked beside him, and he taught me a lot, and
That's
I was
awesome.
able to step into that role after that.
Isn't that, again, another awesome display of preparation, just going ahead and taking care. What percentage, and I know it may be kind of an odd question, but the percentage of your vocational skills that you used in the world, and you overlay them into your spiritual call that you're operating in now, is it pretty high profile?
It is.
Yeah.
And, Andy, I didn't think it would be, because we tend to think of things in compartments.
Yes.
And so it is very high. And so now things that I learned in the business world of working with people or finances or marketing or telling the story about what we do have come into play in a big way.
Neat. Yeah, but the bottom line, one of the key pieces that we really have to have as a bedrock, as Jesus taught us, is relationships.